Hello and welcome back to our kitchen table. We missed you guys.
We missed you.
I'm sitting here with my wife, your therapist, and today we're going to be talking about how to make 2024 your bitch.
Yep.
How to make the entire year submit to you and your whims.
That's what my degree is in. Yeah.
making something your bitch.
2024 specifically.
As always, my name is Price, and I married your therapist.
I'm Ash, and I'm your therapist. Let's get into it.
Ash, how have you been doing? It's been a while since we've had you on the podcast.
Yeah, I've just been here literally the entire time waiting for the next episode. So I'm really glad we're getting started again.
I was wondering why you spent the last 2 months just sitting at the kitchen table.
Yeah, I've just been here. The cats have been coming in and out, so it's been fine.
Yeah, they're keeping you company?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
How about you?
Doing really well, thank you.
That's great.
No complaints here.
I'm happy for you.
I mean, I could think of things to complain about, but that's like my spiritual gift, you know. Let's talk about New Year's resolutions really quick because I've never had a successful New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
I definitely am, I mean, not super proud to say that. I think a lot of my New Year's resolutions aren't about like spiritual or like meaningful growth and more about shrinkage, if you know what I'm saying. You know, I want to lose weight. I want to look a different way.
Yeah.
And that usually lasts about 30 days.
Yeah, nothing like kicking off the year, just reminding yourself how much you hate your body.
All right, you fat fuck. This is the year. This is the year we pull it together. Yeah. I think a lot of people can relate to that. I mean,
oh, sure.
I don't wish that on people, but I think that a lot of us can, for sure. Why do I always fail with my New Year's resolutions? In the past, when I've actually had them, I mean, the real trick here is to not have any goals, and then you can never let yourself down. And so that's like the
real
pro
secret.
IQ strat for goal setting for the year. Just don't do it. But why is it so hard to like keep a goal like that? Or have you struggled with that in the past?
Yeah, I feel like there are a lot of reasons that happens. We're about to talk about something different that I've been doing for the past couple years.
Yes, I'm excited.
But prior to that, I don't know if I did a lot of resolution setting. I feel like as a kid, almost always had a like, I'm going to read the Bible every day sort of setting. That I don't know that ever worked out either. But it's just the stuff that's like, where am I a failure as a human? What do I really dislike about myself? And that's the thing that we set out to change. And the tough thing is you set it out like January 1st, I'm going to be a whole different person. And that's really not fair. Like change and growth and progress takes time.
January 1st is a tough day too, because usually the night before you were getting shitty.
Yeah, it's a rough day to have it be that day.
I'm gonna wake up at noon and have my whole new life.
That makes it really tricky. I also think we don't make goals that we grow into. So a lot of times it's like, I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week. Well, I've been going to the gym 0 days a week. And maybe you do kick it off. I think a lot of people are able to at least start off the new year with some sort of momentum. It's really easy to like go do a new thing for a couple days in a row a lot of the times, if you can do that. But I think the issue is that we decide we're going to immediately become this whole different person.
I think if people were able to stick with that, gyms wouldn't be notoriously busier in the month of January than they are the rest of the year, right?
Yeah. And again, it's such an emphasis on something that we like dislike about ourselves or see in ourselves as like some sort of shortcoming.
Yeah, they're selling it, we're buying it.
Yeah,
hook,
that's
line,
a hard
sinker.
focus. Like, yes, there's going to be some initial motivation of like self-hatred. And then after that, like it's going to be easier to go back to being your old self.
Nothing motivates my positive development more than my self-hatred.
I also think we don't... we set a lot of goals in mind with like, well, when I've achieved this thing, then I'm allowed to be happy. And that's a long time to be miserable. And it turns out that when you do get to that place, like there isn't happiness there. Like happiness is something we find like day by building like delight in our lives.
That's why I like the folks who, I don't think I've ever done this, but they have the New Year's resolution of like, I'm going to read a book a month. I love that because that's more about the journey than it is the destination, as opposed to like the folks who are like, I need to lose 20 pounds. Well, you don't celebrate, or at least I've never done a good job of like celebrating little wins along that path, but it's just like, I've got to get to that number.
One at a time. It's just that end goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's really rough. The other thing is those really like quantifiable, measurable goals. Like on the one hand, maybe you kick off feeling really strong, but as soon as you miss it, you feel like you've failed.
Right.
And you feel stuck in that like, oh, this is always who I'm going to be, especially when something's built out of self-hatred.
How do we do a good job or a better job of evaluating our year? Even if our New Year's resolutions, like we don't even remember what they were. That's how, unimpactful they were in our lives. Like I don't remember. I'm sure I had some goals last year, but I don't even remember them. That's me most of the time. But how do you look back on a year? How do you direct a client, to look back on a year and evaluate like positive growth? Because I know that's something I'm doing from my friends and family all the time. Like, look at what you've done. Look at how far you've come.
It often takes a witness. I think it often takes an outside person. I think a lot of what I do as a therapist is helping people to remember where they've come from and how far they've come. Because really our change, that's the thing about like the New Year sort of change, is so big and measurable and like shiny.
Yeah.
And a lot of our change is like day by day stuff. Like maybe you get through some tasks and you had a really hard time and that feels sucky at the end of the day, but you look back and think like you weren't able to do those things before. Like that day doesn't maybe feel like a win. Maybe you're like, oh my God, I'm exhausted from going out and doing these things. But a couple months ago, you couldn't do that. And so I think that some level of like documentation can be helpful. I've had
like
a lot of
journaling
folks,
or something. Yeah.
I've had a lot of folks switch from journaling, which they found really hard to keep up with, to doing some sort of like bullet points, or even getting like a paper calendar and writing something from each day on it. I think that's a much easier way to track than if you struggle. Some people love to sit down with a journal, and that's great. And if that's what's happening, my advice to you is if you miss a couple days, don't try to catch yourself up on 100% of everything that's happened. That's a cycle I've gotten into so many times. But I've seen a lot of folks have success in like doing some sort of bullet points, but just being able to remind yourself of those things. But ideally, you get to have other people in your life, like you're doing for the people in your life, who say, man, let's look back and remember this.
Give me a few minutes here to witness you over the past year, because I remember very clearly what this time last year was like.
Yeah.
You were very sick.
Yeah.
You were losing your hair at an alarming rate.
Yeah.
You were going through like some acute stress due to some stuff in your personal life.
Yeah.
That was solely my fault. No, I'm kidding. It wasn't. It wasn't really mostly my fault.
It wasn't your fault.
And we thought that you had lupus potentially, and we were very worried. You were not working. Yeah. You had taken a break in between.
I felt really frozen from being able to work as well.
Yeah, so you weren't actually seeing any clients or anything. Mm-hmm. You didn't really have your business up and running. And you're like one significant activity other than like you were going on a lot of walks and stuff and like really trying to take good care of yourself. Yeah. But you started this podcast with me. Yeah. Because you had a lot of free time.
Yep.
Then fast forward a year. Your hair's back and better than ever.
Yay.
You're in like the best health of your life right now. And you just like brought on another therapist onto your team because your private practice is growing so quickly.
Yeah.
And, somebody left a comment on one of our YouTube videos that was like, this is a really amazing video. Too bad it has no views. I was like, motherfucker, this has 15 views. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, so you have a successful YouTube channel that like dozen of people are watching.
Not even dozens.
Just a dozen or so that people watch.
I love it.
So my hat's off to you. I feel like you had a really incredible year.
Yeah, I think this time last year, you were really struggling with some like personal stuff. We were going through yet another like medication switch, which has always been so challenging. And finally, like this time last year, you were just about to head into what was about to be a much more sustainable place with all of that. Job stuff was a struggle in a way that it's not now. Oh my God, it's so amazing to think about where you are now and how that's going. And I think you've also really started like surrounding yourself with some good friends. I think that a lot of our community has really come and gone over the years as we've moved in and out of religious spaces and moved in and out of spaces that maybe weren't a good fit for us, that maybe we really tried to fit into.
Yeah.
And I think that you've really started to establish some friendships where you're like fully yourself.
Yeah. At no point did either of us have New Year's resolutions for this shit.
No.
I've been obsessed with this chef called Marco Pierre White. He's like, he trained Gordon Ramsay, I guess is his biggest claim to fame, but he's like this incredible, like, cult of personality in the, you know, he's super entertaining to watch. And he said, and he may not have even been the person to originally say this, but he said perfection is a lot of little things done right.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about like what last year was just, it was like small things that all accumulated into like a much better year for the both of us, you know, coming from like a bad start to like a good end, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm embracing, like what I want to hunker down for 2024. Like you want to make 2024 your bitch. It's a bunch of little things done well.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so I think that there are a couple of things that do work about not maybe specifically New Year's resolutions, but why we're like drawn to doing that and all of those things.
Yeah.
First of all, like our bodies are really meant to be in touch with the seasons, and something that we talk a lot about in like trauma stuff. What?
Oh, you a Wiccan now, huh? You burning incense and chanting and shit now, huh? My body's supposed to be in touch with the seasons. Yeah, it's cold outside. I'm fucking with you.
I think almost everybody that I get the chance to talk to around this time of year is dealing with some sort of like either seasonal depression or just feeling like low or out of sorts. Even people who have like good experiences with the holidays and look forward to them, just when the weather gets cold and our bodies start to like ask for hibernation, that's rough.
No, it's wild. Like we lost a significant member of our family years ago, and we still like mourn their passing. Like annually, and it's not even like we remember, it's like I'm feeling down. Why is that? Oh, right, this person passed away around this time.
Yes.
And that's like a real thing, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely. No, I think
our body remembers a cyclical hurt or something.
Yes. We're just animals. Like we are meant to be in touch with the seasons and with the passing of time. And I think a lot of the times if somebody is unexpectedly dealing with just feeling really down or feeling really anxious or feeling really disconnected, we can almost always look back and it's like a year before, or it's something that happens every year, just or it's like a 10-year.
Animals, yeah. You tonight, just like animals.
Yeah, like that.
Maroon 6, you know what I'm saying? That's a Maroon 5 song, right? I think.
I honestly don't know.
I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Who knows?
It's just wild that we do actually remember things cyclically. Because, I mean, my big thing is, like, why do we do New Year's resolutions around New Year's? Because, like, you could set goals anytime, right? There's nothing special about January 1st.
Well, two things. One is the, like, cyclical thing. And it's good for our bodies to, like, there's a reason for that. It's good for our bodies to remember what time of year it is. Because if you... Again, like how we've spent most of human existence, if you're out like relying on the land and relying on resources, you should start getting anxious and thinking about food when it's time to be gathering food before winter. You should start slowing down and want to spend time like inside and resting when it's super cold outside. You should be feeling like there's a fresh start coming and feel more energy in the spring when it's time to go plant things, when it's time to go, hunting again. When those things are starting to happen, it's really, really helpful for your body to feel those things. And so it's helpful for our body to go, oh my God, this time last year I was hungry. I got to figure that out this year. And so our body like remembers and keeps up with those things. And the other thing is that I think we as humans, we really love like a fresh start. I think there's something so exciting about the beginning of like a relationship or the beginning of setting out somewhere new or the beginning of doing something, and it's good.
We're celebrating our like 20th anniversary in a couple days. And you're like, I think the best part of a relationship is the fresh start.
I didn't say that's the best part of a relationship. I don't think. Did I just say that? It's a very exciting time. Like there's so much of an
And after that, it's just the excitement is gone. You know, like B.B. King says, the thrill is gone. I'll stop that there. It's a musical episode.
I was gonna say, is this a musical episode right now? Yeah, I think that we like traditions are really important for us. I think that most cultures celebrate a beginning of the year at some point. It doesn't really matter when. Like Chinese New Year doesn't fall at the same time, but you know, we've loved celebrating with our friend who celebrates that time of year. I was born in the year of the cock.
Did you know that?
Same here.
Year of the cock. Oh, because we were born the same year.
Yeah.
It's a nice
that
year.
Works out. Nice.
Yeah. It explains a lot.
I feel like you're having such an ADHD moment during this conversation.
Sorry. You said Chinese New Year. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry.
It's okay. You don't have to be sorry. Anyway, those things are good for us. So something that I think works is something that helps us have like a different mindset about the year. It's not a measurable thing that we can like pass or fail. And something that I've been doing for the last couple years that I've really, really liked is that I pick like a word that's kind of be my theme for that year. And it's something that I keep returning to. It's something that keeps being on my mind. It's not something that I think is particularly reflected in my life maybe January through June.
Right.
I think it takes a long time for that to settle in, but I make decisions with that theme in mind, and I seek out opportunities with that theme in mind. And as I look back on the prior year, I think about it through that lens, and I think it really helps me to contextualize the growth that I've had that year that I probably wouldn't have noticed with something that was much more like succinct and measurable.
We're very open with each other, and we communicate, potentially over communicate in our relationship. And I did not know that you did this until the other day as we were talking about this episode. I didn't know, but as soon as you said it, I was like, oh, that makes total sense that you have themes. Like I see that reflected in the way that you conduct yourself. But I didn't know that, and I'm obsessed with it. I immediately decided what our theme was going to be for this year, and then later you had to follow up and be like, hey, don't fucking decide what my theme is for the year, you motherfucker. And I was like, oh, that's fair. I kind of steamrolled you there. Sorry. But, I mean, I love it. I love it so much more than, like, tangible resolution-related goals, but rather just having, like, here's the area of my little garden that I'm watering this year. Like, this is what I'm focused on, you know?
It's honestly something that I feel like I almost see more impacted in the coming year. Like, after a whole year of reflecting on that thing, I almost hit the next January going, wow, this thing has really become a part of my life. And that thing is almost more present in the coming year than it is in the year that I've decided to make that thing.
So tell us what last year's theme was and how you kind of saw that play out in real life.
Yeah. So I've done it for 2 years in a row. The first year, the word I picked, which maybe sounds a little abstract, but was expansive. I felt like it had been a lot of years of me like kind of shutting down and needing to be very focused in. We had spent so many years like moving around for your job, and I just kind of did the next thing that was a local job that I could have. We spent, it was years of being in school and not exploring any hobbies, not exploring anything else. And I feel like with that theme in mind, I really learned a lot about myself that year. I really learned some things that I was into. It was the year that I started like drawing on the iPad, and that was so fun and creative. It was the year that I said yes to things that I think previously maybe would have made me too nervous to say yes to. It was the year we technically opened up the business, even though I wasn't working there yet. It was finally when I said yes to that. I think I saw it play out a lot. And again, it was something that by the end of the year, I was much more impacted by it than I was in like January of that year.
Yeah, because it's a thing that you're growing. It's not a thing that you're starting, right?
Yes.
You're like, this is what I'm trying to grow this year.
But it was something I thought about frequently.
Yeah.
I'd be like, what decision can I make here that kind of goes along with this theme? And then last year, the theme was family. And
Vin
that,
Diesel.
yes. And that took a lot of different turns.
Yeah.
I think it impacted the way I thought about you and I as a family, you and me as a family. I think it impacted the way that I thought about our larger, like, nuclear families. I think it impacted the way that I thought about friendships and really building, like, community there. And it impacted the way I think I entered conversations where we talked about future, like, what does it mean for us to be a family and to have a family and to be part of a family? And yeah, I really saw it play out a bunch of different
So
ways.
what I'm not hearing is like, when I say my theme was family, I spent as much time as I could with my family.
Yeah.
That's not what you're saying.
No, it was almost like defining family. And I think some things were going, oh, this is kind of like a toxic leftover thing that we don't want to be part of the way that we think about
Right.
who our family is and how we interact with them. It was like a mindset. But yeah, it wasn't, okay, I'm dedicating 100% of my time to trying to be around the people I'm technically blood related to.
I think I fell in line with that. Like, if I had to say what my theme was last year retroactively, I would agree that it was family. And,
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm reaping the benefits of a lot of that because I had a lot of...
Doesn't that feel so much more impactful now at the end of the year than I think it would have at any other point this year?
Yeah, I go back to like my little comment about it being a garden. Like you spend a lot of work on the front end of your garden knowing that it'll be months before you get the results of that. And that's kind of how like a New Year's goal should be, is like starting to put a little effort into something on the front end, knowing that like it'll be about a year before I start fully like seeing that.
Yeah.
And like I've come out of like entered 2023 with a lot of tension and, frustration and fighting with my immediate family, and exited 2023 closer to them than ever before.
And in such a different way than I think you would have defined being close with family.
Completely redefined my, like, a very unhealthy sort of paradigm relationship with my family to a much better one.
Well, oh my gosh, that's something that I think probably the majority of our audience is dealing with now or will be dealing with in the coming years, because it's kind of this age group. There's a lot of things that family has meant to you that were just like the handed over definition of family. This is what families do. This is how they treat each other. This is who they are. This is what your role is in your family. And then I think specifically as you go through like your 20s, you're kind of figuring out, okay, I've been handed these things. Is this this is how I've even come to interpret some of these things. Is this who I need and want to be?
And that's a journey I'm guessing you're helping your clients walk down, or a path you're helping your clients walk through, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like redefining,
That's a conversation I think we have all the time.
Yeah.
It's like family roles and...
So expansive and then family were your two themes so far.
Yeah.
So
you... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So
tangibly, what has that meant? Like, do you feel more expansive now? Do you feel like you say yes to things or expand your horizons more as a result of that year, focusing on that? Or is that kind of limited to that year?
No, I think that spending a whole year with that in mind, it's something that has stuck with me more.
Become a part of who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel that way with this upcoming year, that having spent a year kind of dwelling on family and family relationships and what that means and what I want the future to look like, that's something that I get to carry forward.
What I like about it is I'm a man of action. I want to do.
You want to check off the checklist, like have the thing, have it be done.
And the idea of like just mulling over a topic like with purpose and repeatedly over a couple of years or a couple months is intriguing to me, because it's like you don't have to figure that out. You just, you're gonna. I'm gonna be purposeful with my time here, which I think is interesting. What are you thinking your theme might be for 2024?
I haven't decided. I've been mulling over the idea of boundaries as a theme. I want to be thinking about how I can like more generously give my time and spend my time with other people through having good boundaries. I think this last year we've seen a lot of how, and I know that this is a thing I've done my whole life, how I can really like pour myself out into something and then maybe get to the other side of it and be exhausted by that thing. And I want to be able in the coming year to like so freely, openly be able to say yes to things because I've really thought about like boundaries and had them on my mind.
What a lot of people don't know about you is that you graciously give your time to people.
Yeah.
In the capacity of being a therapist, but you have a lot of people who look to you for guidance and advice and direction.
Yeah, also in my outside life.
Yeah, in your personal life, you have people who have relied on you heavily in the capacity of a therapist, and you have given, over this past year, I would say literally thousands of hours working with, like spending time with people. Not as a therapist, not as a formal therapist,
Right,
but like investing in somebody who is absolutely leaning on the fact that you're like a mental health professional.
Yeah. And that's tough. On the one hand, like it is the way I show up to the world. On the one hand, it is like what I have to bring to a conversation. I think is that I have the like delight and honor of getting to spend so much more of my time thinking about mental health and thinking about the way that we take care of ourselves and thinking about, you know, a lot of these things. It's very easy for me to be able to give that. But also like I'm a finite human being and
it's
I need
not
to
sustainable and it's not
Yeah.
fair to you either. And it's not fair to me either, who like sacrificed time with you because you were doing that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Not to sound like an asshole or to make it about me.
No,
but
that's
like,
totally fair. I think one of my bigger regrets in the last couple years is like also not, that's the boundaries thing, is also like not being able to turn inward and have as much of a boundary around like what my time with you looks like and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So something that I really like, and if you like see me as a therapist in an official capacity, I love the boundaries that I have in therapy. Like I think that in my business, I really feel proud of the way that I've both like protected my time so that I can give it generously. I love that. That's gone very well. And I want to bring more of that into my personal life. And figure out what it means to be. And I think I've already been thinking about this because this has already been a theme that's been on my mind. But how can I then show up to relationships not as somebody's therapist, but as somebody's like friend, as somebody who's also sharing my own stuff back and forth.
and getting something back from
right,
it.
where it's a mutually beneficial relationship.
Yeah.
So I want more of those things.
Yeah.
And I've really delighted in, I think, the past couple of months of finding some of that, and I look forward to doing more of that.
Yeah, and you're gonna not just like implementing boundaries, but like thinking about what that means. You know exactly, and like how you're going to honor other people's boundaries, and how you're like the whole topic is up for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like the great thing about boundaries, I think we've talked about doing another episode on boundaries this year and expanding on it because there's so much to talk about. But the really beautiful thing about having good boundaries is that nobody else has to hold that for you. And I think what happens when somebody does not have good boundaries is that you rely on the people around them to have them for you. And either people have to show up and do your work for you, or people don't have boundaries at all. And you're able to pour out to the point of like resentment in somebody. And all of those are like relationship, like detrimental things to a relationship instead of the relationship building thing that you set out to do in the first place, I think, by having a lack of boundaries.
Could you paint a picture of what you're talking about?
I've been talking with folks a lot this year about like people pleasing in general. And the thing that we do with people pleasing is that we're looking for an end result with somebody. We're looking for, okay, how do I skip the uncomfortable parts of this and give you exactly the thing that you're looking for?
But then we've made a huge assumption about the person in front of us. And instead of allowing them to really genuinely, authentically get to know us, we've like put up a facade. And instead of really genuinely, authentically letting the person in front of us having their full spectrum of feelings and emotions, we've predetermined how this is allowed to look. And we get really frustrated if it doesn't look that way. And I think that's a small piece of what like boundary setting does is I'm not here to show up and predict the future. I'm not here to show up and plan ahead and decide how this is allowed to go. But like I can show up authentically and presently in the moment and hold the space for you to do that too. The other thing about boundary setting could be if you like, I want people to be able to trust my like yes. And so if you maybe never turn down an opportunity, if people ask for your help and you always every time say yes because you feel compelled to, you feel like that's the right thing to do. Again, predicting that outcome, which is like the thing that will make this person happiest is if I always say yes. Is that either that person has to try to guess around, okay, does this person really mean it? Because sometimes they show up and they're in a huff. Sometimes they show up and it doesn't feel like they have the time for me that they said yes to. So now this other person is responsible for guessing, okay, does this person really have time for me? Maybe I shouldn't even ask if they're available to help me or be a part of this thing.
Because their word's not reliable.
Right, because their word's not reliable.
It's like when I compliment your hair. You know I like it because you know I don't compliment anything.
Well, it's one of my favorite things about you is I just trust that you're going to say the real thing, even if it's not the thing that I want to hear. And I've needed that. Or you have somebody who's constantly like, oh, this person never says no. I will always ask for their help. They will always be my go-to. I will not learn any form of like independence on my own. And you end up saying yes to things that you then feel resentful for. And maybe you start to avoid time with that person because you always say yes and they always ask.
I want to talk about other potential themes.
Yes, let's do it.
Because that's what I'm hoping somebody who's listening to this, who's like, what am I going to get done in 2024? Pick a theme. My brother in Christ, my brothers and sisters, and everybody in between. In Christ. Pick a theme for the year. You want to make 2024 your bitch. Pick a theme.
Yeah, so we've been talking about some potential...
I know my theme. Can I tell you?
Yes, please.
My theme will be community. Mm-hmm. I want to spend time this year thinking about what it means to develop and to be in a community.
Yeah.
I would like to have more friends. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily want deeper friendships. I have some deep, meaningful friendships in my life, but I want a larger social friend group to do things with. And I've already started working on that, and I'm making new friends and meeting new people, and it's going splendidly. But and I want to go out and do stuff more. Like COVID happened, and then I never went back to like living life out. Yeah. So I want to like get out more and do more stuff and like spend more time like out in the world hanging out with people. And not just like doing fun shit, but also like having meaningful like friendships. Again, not super deep. I'm not, I don't have that missing in my life, I don't think, but just like a wider community of people that are in my life.
I also see that you are always community seeking. I think where we've lived and every group we've ever been a part of, you're looking to like freely give your time and be a part of something. And to me, something else I see as part of this in this upcoming year is that like you're also seeking out people who seek you out. Like you're seeking out people who are inviting you and wanting you to be a part of things and like giving back. Because you come in with like community energy,
I deserve to hang out with people who want to hang out with me.
Yeah, and right? I've seen more and more of that in the people that you're investing your time in, that they're like, hey, Price, I'm thinking of you. I'm wanting to connect with you.
Well, I was hanging out with Andrew yesterday, one of my childhood friends, and he's done a fantastic job of building community. So I was actually talking to him about that specifically, and I said, what's your advice? Like, how have you done such a good job of this over the years? Because he just got this incredible friend group, and he's had them for like a decade.
Yeah.
Because we knew each other in high school, and then our paths split. And he said, well, I became friends with people who like to plan stuff. and I've just stayed friends with them. So
Yeah.
he's friends with people who like to plan to go do stuff, because what happens when you're in your late 20s and 30s is that if you're not friends with people who plan things, you never do anything.
Yep.
Because you just don't end up in the same
Right.
spaces.
You hit each other up every so often, and it's like, how are you? How are you back? And then that's kind of
that's
the
it.
beginning and end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have really found a lot of delight in starting to connect with people who are wanting to do things like at home, but together. Like make a plan, but it doesn't have to be that we like go out and do an activity, because that sort of thing gets exhausting to me.
Yeah.
You thrive in that a lot easier than I do.
Yeah.
But like,
Come over, we'll order food, or we'll cook here, and we're going to do a craft, and we're going to
I
hang
like
out and
helped
listen to music.
prepare
Yeah.
dinner and dessert with somebody recently, and it
Yeah.
was so nice. I was like, oh yeah, I can come be in your home.
Yeah.
In fact, I've done that with a couple friends recently. It's so nice.
Yeah.
I love that.
But
But yeah, the planning is a big deal. That was very good advice.
to that end, though, to the community building, I'm proud to announce that will be the theme of the podcast this
Yeah.
year. Last year, we did a lot of just kind of generic topics of whatever we felt like talking about. And this year, I'd like to be a little bit more focused, or at least for the next several months, all of the episodes will tie back to ultimately building community, how we can build community, the importance of building community, and how that relates to your own like mental health and well-being.
Well, that is a conversation I think I have all the time with every client that I talk to, is stuff that's about coming back to community. We so deeply need people in our lives. We need to see ourselves like reflected back. Like just when we were talking about, you know, looking at your own growth over the year, a lot of times you need somebody else to call that out to you.
Yeah.
A lot of times you need somebody else to be the rememberer of those things.
The rememberer.
The rememberer and the witness to those things, really.
Yeah.
And also, I think for a lot of us, for a lot of our like specific audience, maybe the community that we thought we would have growing up didn't end up being the people that we're connected with. Yeah, I think a lot of us grew up with like either family first, family always, and maybe our biological family isn't the best community for us to be a part of. Maybe that's a community that really like puts us down or needs a very specific version of us for us to be allowed to exist and
Or
be okay.
or a significant amount of heartache and work is required to like redefine your relationship.
Right,
there.
or it's just not an easy community to be a part of. Maybe you are rebuilding that, or maybe you are taking steps, and I think that's such a lovely and beautiful thing, but
Yeah.
oh my God, is it exhausting, and you need that like easiness of community.
I'm so proud of my entire family. We went. Maybe I'll be ready to talk about this in the future, but there was a significant change
Yeah.
in my family's dynamic over the past year.
Yeah.
That was very hard
Yeah.
to accomplish, but it was worth it, and we did it, and we're better than ever. But it required a purposeful effort
Yeah.
on our part, and I was advised by some people that like, hey, this isn't working. You should walk away, and I'm glad that I didn't. You know.
Well, maybe we can do like a family system sort of episode,
That would
but
be cool.
something that I've talked about is the way that in families, in a group like that, it's not just a group of individuals, but it is a system that works together, and it has to find equilibrium. It's been tough. But it's
Let's throw out some, because we brainstormed some
Yeah,
different
let's talk about
themes
some
that
different
we might enjoy having, that maybe the listeners might find inspiration from.
That sounds good.
Okay, so we've already talked about boundaries, which is what you're kind of weighing as potentially your
Yeah.
theme for the new year. I'm locked in on community. We talked about family specifically.
Right, like my theme last year.
Yep. Friends as opposed to community. So like for me, the difference between community and friends is that one takes place in a community college and it was written by Dan Harmon, and the other one is an extremely overrated sitcom that has no black people in it at all. When it was on the air for years, and it's like black people didn't exist in that universe.
Yeah, I don't think they existed back in the 90s. Oh my God.
No, the difference between community and friends is community for me is more about a network of people who I can do things with, engage in activities, and like, see.
It's maybe intergenerational.
Yeah, a community, a large group of people, intergenerational, different types of folks mixed in there. Friends are focusing on friends is more like delving into maybe the friendships you already have, or going out and pursuing people that you can be like close, deep, personal friends with. And those feel like, maybe two different sides of the same coin, but they do feel separate to me, or like different
And again,
things.
it's kind of what strikes you as something that's like probably on your mind already now, that's now going to be something that you're taking into the new year and thinking about consistently throughout the
And
year.
perhaps if you're focused on friends, you build community, or if you're focused on community, you find friends.
Yeah.
All of that's beautiful. Another one is prosperity as a theme.
That to me means a lot of different things. Maybe this is the year you're gonna like really sit down and think about a budget. Maybe you've been budgeting for a long time, and this is a year where you're like setting aside resources for you to enjoy your life right now, and you're like making financial investments in yourself.
Go spend it, sweetie. Go spend it. You're
Treat
worth
yourself.
it. You're worth it.
Maybe maybe it's a time of year where you're going to be seeking out like a new job that feels more sustainable to you, or that doesn't feel like it, drains your whole life energy to go to, like whatever that is.
Yeah.
I think that can mean a lot of different things. We also had career, which I think is
I'm
maybe
locking
tying
in
with
on
some of those
I have some
themes.
career-based goals, and that's what I'm focused on this year. And,
Yeah.
or maybe I'm trying to shift my career, or, land in the career that I want to land in. Or maybe it's like, I'm not happy in my current job and my current job's trajectory, and I want to take some time this year to figure out what would make me happy.
Yeah, maybe it's taking time talking to people who do the jobs you think you would be interested in and asking them how they got there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what's important is we're not saying start your year with this theme and a specific outcome in mind.
Yeah.
Start the year with the theme and give yourself time to arrive at an outcome
Yeah.
that gives you some purpose and meaning,
Yes.
and some joy. Change as a theme. I like that. It's very broad.
Yeah.
But to me, if my theme this year was going to be change, I would be really focused on embracing like new things, different things, thinking about new opportunities.
Yep, trying out new things and seeing if that's a good fit for you. And you're
Yeah.
allowed to say no to stuff. Like, this isn't just that you always say yes to everything in perpetuity. It's that you're learning more about yourself as you go.
Maybe if your biggest complaint right now is that you get bored easily, maybe change would be an exciting theme for you. You're just going to try new stuff
Yeah.
for the sake of it,
Yeah.
Worthiness. Talk to us about worthiness.
This to me is about a theme of like inherent worthiness. I think a lot of us have spent a lot of time being lied to that like we need to earn the connections that we have. We need to earn, the good and delightful things in our life. And this is about saying no to things that do not observe your like inherent worthiness, that ask you to prove yourself to be allowed to be there, and
Right.
saying yes to the people in your life who are like, no, I see you and I love you just as you are. I want more of exactly you.
Right.
Yeah, I like that as a theme.
Education/learning. I mean, if you're in college, that's your theme. If you're in high school, that's kind of your theme, But what about folks who, like, this is their focus for the years? I want to expand my mind. I want to grow, my knowledge about the world I live in, or maybe even a specific topic,
Yeah. I want to pursue opportunities for learning, and that doesn't have to be in a classroom specifically, but like, man, I've always had such an interest in, in plants. And
Yeah.
this year I'm going to pull up a list of all of the native plants around me and see if I can start to identify some of them. I'm going to cross them off the list and learn about this thing that I care
Or
about.
if your goal this year is like, my New Year's resolution is I'm going to do Duolingo every day and I'm going to learn Spanish. A, you're not going to do Duolingo every day unless you're a psychopath. And B, you're not going to learn a new language in a year. It's not going to happen. Maybe your theme is like, I'm going to be thinking about what it means to me to learn a new language. I'm going to be thinking about the steps that I need to take to like actually do
Right,
this.
I'm
I'm
gonna
going to
be
find communities that
seeking out
speak that
people
language
who speak it.
to coach me.
I'm going to be, taking time to like consume content that is in Spanish or that's in, my target language or whatever. I'm going to look up a list of the main verbs and be like practicing and learning those. Like, it's going to be part of my lifestyle, not just something that I have to like check off every day and that I could potentially fail and stop doing because it stopped having that reward every day.
To me, it feels like the difference between like my New Year's resolution is to learn how to swim, as opposed to my New Year's resolution is to spend a few hours in the pool every week. One of those is much more forgiving, and you're probably going to learn how to swim. Ultimately, I don't know if that really makes sense, but it's like less specific goal oriented, and it's more like action oriented. Like, what am I going to be doing?
Well, I think it's approaching it from a lot of different perspectives.
That's
it's
a better way
not
to put
just
it.
like, oh, I'm going to go do this one thing, and this one thing is going to get me to my goal. But I want to plan a trip to the beach this summer with a friend, and I am going to go pursue a membership somewhere where I have access to a pool. And I'm going to, read about somebody that I admire that like has built a career on swimming. And I'm going to how is this going to be something that is on my mind throughout the year too.
Yeah.
And something that I can get bored in one area of this, or I can burn out in one area of this and still feel like I can pick up something different here.
Speaking of expanding as an idea,
That was
One of your
the goal
themes?
that I had, or the theme that I had a couple years ago. And it was just, it was thinking about that. I think again, from every different approach, like where am I when I was thinking about finding interests after being in school for so many years, when I was thinking about saying yes to opportunities to be around other people. I was also like turning on music in my house and dancing around and like thinking about taking up space in that way.
I like it because it's like expanding, also like discovering yourself a little bit,
Yes.
like really, and it's similar to change as a theme as well, I think. Interests, very similar to expanding and change, but like I know those things that I am interested in. I have some hobbies, I have some things that are like on my peripheral, and I'm going to spend time doubling down on those things this year. Like that's what I'm interested in doing. I think that could be really cool, especially for some of our listeners who have special interests. Y'all are some cuties. You're autistic, sorry.
Sorry.
Maybe this is the year that you take this into like, maybe this is the year you double down on it and you're going to try to find work in your area of focus or whatever. I don't know. Health. This is a big one.
You liked that specifically as not saying I'm going to wear this size of jeans or I'm going to lose X amount of
Or I'm going to fit into
weight.
my high school cheerleading costume,
Right, yeah.
or outfit or uniform or whatever.
You're an adult now. You should not be fitting in high school stuff. But yeah, I like, so when we were talking about by the end of last year, me having gone through like a really bad health year, I think that this could be the sort of goal that you're pursuing, even if you're dealing with chronic illness, even if you're dealing with like pain. I think about that year as I was expanding and thinking about that word, I think health was a part of that for me. And even though I was dealing with probably my most severe health year ever, I was really thinking about what rest looked like in my life. I was really thinking about what moving my body in a kind, loving way looked like. And that's what that means to me. Do you have other thoughts around?
Yeah, if you're sitting here and you're like, my goal is to lose 20 pounds or it's to be in the gym 4 days a week, like, why don't you have a goal that's like, my goal is to prioritize my health this year. And so that when you don't make it to the gym for that fourth day that week, you haven't failed. And when you don't lose the 20 pounds within the time frame that you've given yourself, you haven't failed, but rather you're thinking about this more holistically. You're like, I want to start thinking about what a better diet for my body is. I want to start consuming more water. I want to be walking more regularly and going to the
I
gym.
want to learn a few recipes for myself.
I want to find
so
a
that I eat at
sport
home.
that like gets me amped up. Like I want to focus on my overall health and well-being. And that's not to say that you're not allowed to want to lose 20 pounds, but like, is that ultimately, because there's a lot of ways to lose 20 pounds and a lot of them aren't very healthy,
Yeah. I think the other thing about having a theme is that it's about the little things you do on a regular basis and think about on a regular basis and not about
bunch of
that
small
end goal.
things done well. That's
Yep.
the definition of perfection.
Yep. I think if you're not allowed to be happy until you've lost 20 pounds, you are not going to be happy when it tips from like having lost 19 to 20. Like that is just not the way that our brains work. But if you are finding a way that you move your body that you delight in, you're going to be having a better time every day between now and then. And it won't, that specific number goal isn't going to mean the same thing to you.
Let me read off a few of these kind of
Yes.
quickly. Give me comments if you have any. Openness.
That to me is openness to new experiences.
Back to basics.
That to me is somebody who's maybe had a couple hard years or is in a new chapter of their life. And it's like, okay, I really want to nail a couple fundamentals. I want to learn more about cooking at home. I want to start a cleaning routine. I want to think about intentionally connecting with one person a week and having a good conversation that really
Maybe
feels
this
like it
is
fills
somebody
my tank.
who's just gone through something really traumatic or lost a loved one.
Absolutely.
Or, like you said, had a significant
You're on
move.
the other side of divorce. You're on the other side of loss.
Yeah.
This is like really kind of thinking about the couple things that matter to you and focusing on those things.
What about awareness as a theme?
That was your idea. I really like awareness as a theme. I think that that's one of the biggest things we get to do together in counseling is like, where are you really paying attention to your life? This is going to be a big deal if you've had a lot of trauma. This like coming back to the present.
Generosity.
Yeah, somebody who's wanting to look for more opportunities to be generous with their time or their resources or their skill set, whatever that is.
And even generous to themselves as well.
Yep.
Generosity doesn't have to be external
very,
only.
really kind and open to yourself.
Yeah. And the last one on our list, for now at least, is peace as a theme.
Yeah, saying no to things that don't give you peace, saying
Yeah.
yes to things that bring peace into your life, yes to relationships that
Wanting
bring
to
peace in your
find
life.
opportunities to be a peacemaker for your friends and family if you feel like that's appropriate, or not a terrible way to spend your time.
Yeah, maybe you have a lot of discord in your life and you want to seek out ways to have more peace.
Yeah, but when I wrote it down, I was immediately thinking like, this year I really want to focus on like ways that I can find calming techniques and be able to calm my own spirit, my own mind.
Mindfulness.
And find peace in my own heart. That was the inspiration for that. But I think it could be interpreted a number of ways, Yeah, this kind of gets me amped up. I'm looking at the next couple years of my themes. I think that I will be doing themes from now
I
on.
can totally see us continuing to pull from this list. And
Yeah.
again, I love it because it honors that bit of us that wants to do something new, that knows it's this time of year when we do pick new things, that loves the like 1-1 on the calendar because
Yep.
it's a fresh start, and also that doesn't hold us to something that's impossible and gives us an anchor point to look back on in the past year.
Yeah.
Okay, where have I picked this thing over the last 12 months?
I would really love to hear if folks are going to choose themes.
Oh my
what are
God,
you
I would
choosing?
love to hear some people's themes.
If you have other ideas for themes that we haven't thought of, I would be really curious to know what those are. Yeah. Again, the podcast theme and my personal theme for this year is going to be building community. So if that's your theme as well, come along for the ride and check out these episodes. We're going to be talking a lot about what it means to build meaningful, purposeful community in your life.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts for us, Ash, before we close out today?
I don't know. What's on my mind right now is the people who are still going to pick a quantifiable, I'm going to do this thing X number of times a week. And if that's...
like a very tangible New Year's resolution.
And if that's you, go for it. And my encouragement to you would be do something to build. So rather than saying, I'm going to journal every single day, if you're doing 0 of that now, start with 1 day a week and make that your January goal. Then move up to 2 days a week. Then
be more reasonable.
Be really gentle and kind with yourself. But what I love about this is not only is it the building, something you think about, it's something you reflect back on, it's something that's a growing practice in your life. But it's also something that's it's like a lens through which to view the world. And I think that is a really helpful thing to have. And that's what we miss out on when we have super tangible, I'm going to do this thing every single day sorts of
Well, you
goals.
miss the forest for the trees with that sort of mindset, right? Like, this is the impact statement. Like, I want to lose 20 pounds. So what?
Yeah.
So, because I want to be in better health, right? I want to make more friends. So what? Because I want to grow my community. This is the theme is the impact
So
statement.
that's a good way to think about it. Maybe you already have a super tangible goal. And what you can do is look at the underneath value statement of that to
Yeah.
come up with some sort of
Yeah,
thing.
why is it that I want to achieve this specific goal? Like, what is the bigger picture behind that goal? And that's your theme. Congrats. Yeah, but if you just start with your theme, you give yourself the maneuverability to kind of refine what those goals are as the year goes on, right?
I love that it's like fluid and adaptable. We need more of those things in our life where your goal isn't like, if I don't do this thing, I've failed, but it's, I can grow into this. I can figure out different ways to incorporate this. And the end of my year can look different than the beginning of the year, and I can still like celebrate.
That's what I was thinking. Like, at the end of the year, you can reflect on, like, how did my focus of like family or community as my theme, how did that manifest itself? And you're not like, man, I didn't accomplish the very specific thing. You can be like, wow, look at all the different things that I did to like grow my community.
Yeah,
And some of
exactly,
them worked better than others, but my goal was to grow my community and to focus on that. And I certainly accomplished that.
Yep,
You know,
yep.
I think that's awesome.
Nice.
Okay, well, Ash, for the first time in season 2 of I Married Your Therapist, thank you so much for your time.
Price, thank you for your time.
And we will see you next time on I Married Your Therapist. Did I say my actual New Year's resolution is to cuss more in the episode?
My actual New Year's resolution is to have more transphobes call me a crazy cat lady. I did not get enough of that. I
You got
thrive
some of
on
it.
it. Some of it, not enough. I'm here for more.
Yeah, people are like, man, they're grooming kids and she's a crazy cat lady. And you're like, yeah, I'm not grooming kids, but I am a crazy fucking cat lady.
Oh my God, you noticed.
It's good to be back.
It's good to be back.